Hey gang, it is Revelation chapter 3. I know it's Wednesday and we're a couple of days behind on this, but we've had some technology difficulties. As a matter of fact, I just finished shooting all of this in 6 minutes. It was the most amazingly glorious 6 minutes of all time, and I didn't plug the microphone in, so here we are. For me, this is the third go-round. For you, this will be the first. Revelation chapter 3. We're reading the letter to three churches here: the church at Sardis, the church at Philadelphia, and the church at Laodicea. If you remember back, Revelation chapter 1, we talked about the seven churches. John saw the Son of Man, the likeness of the Son of Man, standing in the midst of seven golden lampstands, and each one of those lampstands represents a church. And so the message to the church at Sardis, he tells them, he says, wake up and strengthen what little bit remains, for even what is left is almost dead. Sardis had a great reputation as a church, but they had just over the years began to kind of go through the motions to do what was most convenient, the easiest thing, and they just kind of began to fade away. One of the things we know about stars from science is that it takes about 30 years for the light from a star to reach Earth. And so the light that you see, that star could be gone. It could have been gone 20 years ago, but you're still seeing the light from it because it takes that long to get here. And that's kind of what he's saying about the church at Sardis. You guys were you were bright lights, you were doing all the things, and now you just kind of phoned it in. The light's dimmed, but because of your reputation, it's hard for people to see. The message of the church at Philadelphia. This is interesting to note because there's only two churches that didn't get something corrective. They didn't have, Jesus didn't say something negative to them, and that's the church of Philadelphia. And then back from chapter 2, the church at Smyrna. And he says, this is the message from the one who is holy and true, the one who has the key of David. That little part of scripture there in verse 7 is from Isaiah 22, verse 22. He says here in verse 8, he says, I know the things that you do. I've opened the door for you that no one can close. You have little strength. You obeyed my word, and check it out, and yet you did not you did not deny me. You obeyed my word, and you did not deny me. The church of Philadelphia had gone through a lot of difficulties, and they did not have a whole lot of strength to continue to the good fight, to do the right things, and yet they continued to do the right things, and they did not deny him. Look at what verse 10 says. And because you have obeyed, there's our word again, obeyed my command to persevere, I will protect you from the great time of testing that will come upon the world to test those who belong to the world. Now, there's a couple of things here. I will protect you, he says. The word protect doesn't mean to remove from, and there's a lot of animus or argument in the book of Revelation about the rapture and the tribulation and when all that's going to happen, when the church is going to be here, when the church is going to be removed, all of that kind of thing. What I can tell you here is what he says is, I will protect you, not remove you, but I will protect you from the great time of testing that will come upon the whole world. That word testing there is also not a word for tribulation, so to speak, but as you would test or refine or purify something there. He says, but I'm going to protect you from the great time of testing. Who is he going to protect? He's going to protect the ones that did not deny him. Even though you are tired of fighting the good fight, you are tired of making the right decisions in the midst of just a world gone mad, you have to continue to do that because those are the ones that God protects, those that do not deny him. Lastly, the message to the church at Laodicea. So write this message to them. You have heard this verse, no doubt. Verse 15, he says, I know the things that you do. You're neither hot nor cold. I wish you were one or the other. But because you're down the road, you're in the middle, you're riding the pine, you got splinters in your backside, I am going to spew you out of my mouth. And look at verse 17. It says, you say, I'm rich, and I have everything I want. I don't need a thing. And you don't realize that you are wretched and miserable, poor, blind, and naked. This church thought they had it all together, but they were just kind of down the middle. They weren't hot, they weren't on fire, they hadn't really fully fallen away, they were just kind of in the middle. And Jesus says to them, you think you're rich, you think you've got it all together, but really you are poor, miserable, naked, and blind. You don't have nearly together what you think that you do. Verse 19, he says, I correct and discipline everyone I love, so be diligent and turn from your indifference. Of all of the churches of the seven, I think the church that we live in today, the modern day church, is probably this church at Laodicea. We think we're rich. We think we've got it all together. We're all that in a bag of chips. And in actuality, we've really just become indifferent to the things of God. Verse 20, he says, look, I stand at the door and knock. If you hear my voice and open the door, I'll come in and we will share a meal together as friends. And so here's the thing I'm going to leave you with. We're all going to meet God face to face one day. We're all going to settle the score. And we're going to settle the score either as friends or as enemies. And Jesus says, today I'm standing at the door and knocking. If you'll answer the door, we'll come in and we'll have dinner together as friends. So we'll either face Jesus as a friend or as a foe. Choose you this day who you'll serve. Remember, I'm pulling for you, and we're all in this together. I'll see you next time, Revelation chapter 4.